Here's a number that should bother you. 60 to 80 hours a month. That's how much time entrepreneurs, founders, and C-suite leaders spend on review cycles. Not performance reviews, strategic planning, or client conversations. We're talking about document reviews, content approvals, brief sign-offs, proposal critiques, and SOP edits. 60 to 80 hours a month of leadership time spent producing feedback that frequently triggers more feedback rounds. Most businesses assume the problem is the quality of work, but it's not. It's the quality of the feedback. When feedback is vague, contradictory, or delivered without a method, even good work gets stuck in revision hell. Knowledge workers spend approximately 2.5 hours per day, nearly 30%, researching for information connected to documents they're reviewing to try and act on it. The average enterprise employee incurs roughly $20,000 per year in documented-related inefficiency costs. Most businesses lose weeks and thousands of dollars in broken document reviews, and over time, that compounds into millions. That's the efficiency problem we're fixing this episode. By the end, you'll have an immediate place to start giving better feedback on day-to-day operational tasks. Hi, I'm Summer, founder of Driven Connection, and we help eliminate inefficiencies that impact profitability, expansion, and people. Let me show you what happens in most businesses during a document review. A draft lands in a shared folder or inbox. Multiple reviewers are tagged at once, and no one is told exactly what they're reviewing for. So each person comments on everything. The marketing team flags legal language. Legal rewrites the headline. The subject matter expert redesigns the conclusion. The document creator receives conflicting comments and has no idea where to start. The first round of revisions usually end up surface level to make everyone happy, but no one's satisfied. The second round begins, and then a third. Weeks and several rounds of feedback later, the document is finally approved. But here's the problem that no one said. The content structure doesn't support the document's purpose. That feedback received earlier in the process would have saved at least one round, but no one gave it because no one knew that it was their job to do so. Everyone was focused on fixing sentences when the overall structure of a document can be broken. What feels inevitable is often a design problem. Every part of what I described is a predictable result of sending a document into review without an established method. This is a form of operational debt that's being disguised as collaboration. The research on this is consistent across industries and scales. When feedback lacks professional logic, which is observable, specific, and action-oriented, it ends up creating more work, not less. A 2020 peer-reviewed study in computational biology found that when feedback is unstructured, review conversations actually widen in disagreements rather than resolving them. And that turns minor differences into major ones. Structured feedback review processes increased reviewer agreement significantly. Reviewers using structured feedback formats made the same initial recommendation 41% of the time, compared with 31% for unstructured reviews. A study published in the Science Direct found that employees who receive specific, timely, and constructive feedback are significantly more likely to improve their skills and produce higher quality output. The key word is specific. Vague feedback. This needs work. Unclear. Tighten this up. Those don't produce improvement. It produces defensiveness, confusion, or quiet compliance that does not translate into a better next draft. 74.5% of responses in a systemic workplace analysis contained at least one global, non-specific judgment. Most feedback review fails at its most basic job. The problem is that nobody ever taught them how to do it. The root cause is the same at scale, but the inefficiencies look different along the way. Let's discuss what those look like at 3 business sizes. At the small business level, founders running $250,000 to $5 million businesses, there are no shared standards for what a review document should look like. Approval means that the founder glanced at it. When contractors or agencies produce work, the founder can't always articulate what is wrong, only that something is. Feedback arrives in pieces across email, chat, and comments over days, and the author has to reconcile contradictions across channels. At mid-market scale, directors and VPs managing $5 million to $100 million businesses, reviewers should know what they're reviewing for. No brief, no scope, no checklist tied to their role. Document feedback takes 2 to 3 weeks because there's no defined deadline or accountability for who approves what's next. Version control breaks. Reviewers start commenting on outdated drafts. The review thread turns into a debate. Reviewers apply to each other directly in the document instead of communicating through the author. At enterprise scale, $100 million and above, the breakdowns are structural. For example, 59% of chief legal officers report increased workloads, not because there's more content, but because review cycles themselves are broken. And what is that root problem? There's no system-led method. Every reviewer invents their own approach, and the document becomes a battleground. Here's the most important distinction when we're talking about written document feedback, and the most important reviewers have never been taught. The difference between observation and interpretation. An observation describes what is literally present or absent in a document. The interpretation assigns motive, quality, or judgment to it. Here is an observation. The third paragraph introduces a concept that isn't referenced in the opening summary. Here is an interpretation. This is confusing and poorly organized. Both comments might be responding to the same issue. Only one of them tells the author or creator what to actually do about it. Observation-based feedback, revision, and forward movement. Interpretation-based feedback produces defensiveness. The first, the most important shift any reviewer can make is to learn to describe what they see before assigning meaning to it. There is no right method for giving written feedback on documents, but there are several well-documented frameworks. The goal is to find one that fits your content and your team. Here are 3 to help you get started. Framework 1. The 4-part comment structure, which is used by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, developed for peer review of technical documents. Every comment contains 4 parts. First, the concern. What specifically is the issue in observable terms? 2. The significance. Why it matters for the document's purpose. 3. A suggested resolution. What direction should the author try next? And 4. A priority level, critical or minor. This is similar to setting an impact level as we talk about with other inefficiency episodes. Going through this process forces the reviewer past opinion and into analysis. The author reviews the location, the reason, the direction, and the weight. Everything needed to act without another round for clarification. It's important to remember reducing time in feedback rounds are 2 of the huge benefits of moving forward with exercises like these. If your team works on highly technical documents, the 4-part structure is your strongest fit. But if you need something faster and more flexible, here's Framework 2, the 3-step Skim-Then-Read protocol from Will Larson. Step 1, skim first. Read the document quickly to understand its structure before leaving any comments. This prevents feedback based on imagined structure and flags that are resolved later in the document. Step 2, read with purpose. On the second pass, leave structured comments, concern, reasoning, and priority. Step 3, apply the volume threshold rule. Before reviewing, set a comment limit for yourself, usually 3 to 4 substantive comments. If you find yourself exceeding that limit, stop and ask why. Is this document fundamentally weak, or am I nitpicking? If the document has structural problems, unclear purpose, missing context, wrong format for the audience, the issue is upstream. That means the brief was unclear, the wrong person wrote it, or the preparation was insufficient. You can't fix that with 40 line item comments. The fix is with a conversation that resets the work. The volume threshold protects both the reviewer and the author. It prevents you from over-editing someone else's work, and it forces you to escalate the right problems to the right level. If your team moves fast and needs a protocol that's easy to teach, Larson's 3-step is the practical choice. But if your challenge is helping reviewers stay focused on what matters most, the 3rd framework solves for that directly. Framework 3, Feedback Priority Layering from the University of Virginia Teaching Hub. This framework focuses on sequence. First, before reviewing, write down your feedback priorities. Without a written anchor, reviewers drift into general criticism. Next, while reviewing, give fewer, more detailed comments that reflect those priorities. Depth beats volume. Last, after reviewing, write a global summary note, how the individual comments connect to the document's overall purpose. This top sheet summary is what most reviewers skip. Its absence is why recipients don't know where to start. All three frameworks share a requirement: the reviewer knowing what they're reviewing the document for and what is the purpose of that content. This is systemic integrity applied to document review. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, the most common failure in group reviews is that every reviewer comments on everything. The solution is to define, before the review opens, what each person is responsible for and what they're not. A mid-market scale, a basic lane structure looks like this. The content or copy lead reviews for clarity, voice, tone, and structure, not for technical accuracy or legal exposure. The subject matter reviews for factual accuracy and completeness, not for style or formatting. The strategy lead reviews for alignment to the brief and audience fit, not for editorial corrections. Legal reviews for compliance and risk, not creative direction. The final approver asks one question: does this meet the objective and is it ready? Each role produces feedback only within its lane. Feedback outside a reviewer's lane is marked as suggestion rather than required. This also enables sequential review where the stakes are high. Subject matter experts before strategists, strategists before legal before the final approver, instead of all five touching the documents simultaneously and generally collecting feedback that gets confused. And the upstream piece that makes all of this work: no document enters review without an approved brief first. A brief isn't bureaucracy. It's a contract that tells every reviewer what the document is supposed to accomplish. When the brief exists, reviewers stop relitigating the strategy. When reviewers stop relitigating the strategy and focus on the problem plus purpose, review rounds drop. A simple brief can include the purpose of a document and the decision it supports, the target audience and their context, a definition of done, a checklist that the review should cover, and who approves what in what order. For a feedback giver, your role ends when you've clearly communicated your observation, your reason, and your suggested direction. The most common failure in document feedback is vagueness born of discomfort. This looks like leaders who soften their comments until they say nothing, who mark everything as suggested to avoid conflict, and approve work they know is not ready. They are not being kind. They are being avoidant. The work suffers and the person responsible never gets the signal they need to improve. Clear feedback with care is one of the most respectful things a reviewer can give. If you're ready to get to work, I have a side quest for you. Pick one document that needs to enter review. Before you send it, do these three things. First, write a brief with purpose, audience, and definition of done. The definition of done helps the reviewer understand what you're seeking in a finished product. 2. Define reviewer roles and lanes. Explain in a few words who reviews what and what is expected for each role. 3rd, choose one comment format. The 4-part structure, the Larson protocol, make one up. Just pick one structure and share it with reviewers before they open the document. After they've gone through the process a few times, ask your team how it feels. Document review is almost always a method problem, and methods are teachable. You're learning, you're growing, and you're building a business where high-quality work gets approved faster because you've built a system-led review process that eliminates inefficiencies at the source. I'm Summer Ames Prodan, and we'll see you on the next installment of Driven Growth.